Today's episode is one that I've been wanting to do for a while because it's something that trips so many women up when they're trying to make healthier choices, and that's food labels. If you've ever stood in the supermarket aisle holding 2 packets of something, trying to figure out which one's better because one has more green lights and the other has fewer calories, this episode is for you. We've been trained to look at the front of a packet, those little colored traffic lights, and the bold claims like low fat, reduced sugar, or only 100 calories. And we assume that that must mean it's a healthy choice. But the truth is, those labels are often misleading, and in many cases, they actually steer you away from the foods that support your metabolism and hormones and fat loss goals, especially as women over 40. So in this episode, I want to pull back the curtain a bit. We're going to talk about why those front of the pack labels are designed the way that they are, what they don't tell you, and what you should actually be looking for when you're choosing food. And we're also going to dive into how the whole calories in versus calories out thing is outdated, how your body actually burns fat, and why things like protein, fiber, ingredients, and yes, even salt matter more than just the number on the label. And of course, we'll touch on why low fat and low sugar often mean highly processed and why that can keep you stuck in this very cycle that you're trying to get out of. Before we dive in, if you haven't grabbed it yet, make sure you download my Fat Loss Fundamentals Guide. It's a really helpful starting point if you're trying to lose weight in a way that supports your body instead of fighting against it. No tracking, no calorie obsession, just real strategies that work for women over 40. I'll pop the link in the show notes or the description for you. All right, let's get into it. So let's really dig into this traffic light system on food packaging, because on the surface, it sounds helpful, right? Red, amber, green, simple, quick, supposedly easy to understand at a glance. But here's the thing, when it comes to real health, especially hormone health and metabolism and fat loss, this system is wildly misleading. So what does it actually measure? Calories, fat, saturated fat, sugar, and salt. That's it. 5 data points given a color code based on government guidelines. The idea is to help you make better choices very quickly, especially when comparing 2 similar foods. Say, 2 ready meals or snack bars. But these color codes are based purely on numbers. They don't account for how your body responds to a food. They don't consider ingredients, nutrient quality, blood sugar impact, or whether a food will leave you full and energized or crashing an hour later and rummaging in the snack drawer. Let me share an example with you. A client of mine switched from eating full-fat Greek yogurt with berries and seeds, a beautifully balanced snack with protein, fat, and fiber, to a green-lighted, fat-free strawberry yogurt, because the front of the pot said it was low in calories, low in fat, and low in sugar. It seemed like the better choice. But here's what actually happened. That fat-free yogurt had barely any protein. The sweetness came from artificial sweeteners, which spiked her cravings later. There was no fiber to slow things down, no fat to help her absorb vitamins, and she was starving again within an hour. And not only that, but she felt guilty for eating the original yogurt, even though it was supporting her metabolism and helping her to stay full for hours. That's the power of these labels. They shape our choices and our beliefs about food. Another client told me she chose a cereal because it mostly had green and amber colors on the box, and she assumed that it meant that it was healthy. But when we look closer, it was 80% refined carbs, hardly any fiber or protein, and the second ingredient was sugar, or an ingredient just disguised under a different name. She thought she was doing the right thing, but it wasn't supporting her energy, her hormones, or her fat loss goals. The issue with these labels is that they focus on what's easy to measure, not what's actually meaningful. It's like judging a book by how short it is instead of the content. Just because something is low in a nutrient doesn't make it a good choice. And just because something has a bit more fat or salt doesn't make it bad. And we have to talk about calories for a moment, because the traffic light system really leans into this idea that lower calories equals healthier. But that's such an outdated, one-dimensional view of how the bodies work. I'll go into this more in the next section, but your body is not a calculator. It's complex, adaptive, and it responds to quality, nutrient density, how full you are, how safe your body feels, and so much more. Focusing on only calories is like obsessing over the price of a tag of a product without looking at what you're actually buying. Now, I get it. When you're in the supermarket, you don't always have time to turn every item around and read the label in detail. That's why the traffic light system was created, to simplify. But oversimplification has consequences. When women are choosing rice cakes and fat-free yogurts over nourishing, satisfying meals just to stay green, they're not just missing out on nutrients, they're actually slowing their metabolism, messing with their hunger hormones, and feeling constantly unsatisfied. And maybe you've experienced this too. You try to be good, you choose the low-calorie option, you pick the foods with the most green lights, and yet you're still stuck. The weight's not shifting, your energy's not improving, you're hungrier than you think you should be, you're doing what the labels told you was right, so why doesn't it work? It's because you're being told the wrong information. The traffic light system is rooted in a diet mentality, one that assumes that the key to health is eating less and cutting out bad ingredients. But you're not broken. You don't need to eat less. You just need to eat smarter. You need to understand how to support your metabolism, your hormones, your energy levels, especially in your 40s and beyond, when your body needs us changing. And that starts with ignoring the front of the packet and getting curious about what's on the back. Okay, so now that we've talked about how misleading the traffic light system and calorie counting can be, what should you actually look for when you're reading the food label? Because I get it, you don't want to spend hours decoding every item in your trolley, but once you know what really matters, you'll start to notice patterns, and you'll be able to spot foods that are truly going to support your metabolism and hormones and energy levels without obsessing over numbers. So let's start with protein. Protein is the most important macronutrient for fat loss, especially for women over 40. It helps maintain and build lean muscle, which is critical for a healthy metabolism. It keeps you feeling fuller for longer, it stabilizes blood sugars, and helps to reduce cravings. When you're looking at a label, I want you to check how many grams of protein there are per serving. Ideally, you want to aim for at least 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. So if a meal is only containing 6 grams of protein, that's a red flag. You'd be surprised how many so-called healthy meals or snacks are mostly carbs with just a sprinkle of protein. Protein is often the missing piece that helps women go from constantly hungry and snacky to feeling full, balanced, and in control. Next up, we've got fiber. This is another game changer. And again, it's rarely shown on the front of the pack. Fiber helps with digestion, it keeps you regular, it supports your gut health, and it plays a huge role in blood sugar balance and hormone detoxification. Most women don't get anywhere near enough fiber. So when you're reading the back of a pack, look for options with the bare minimum amount of 3 to 5 grams of fiber per serving. Ideally, closer to 10 grams per meal is what we want to aim for. And we really want it coming from natural sources like vegetables, seeds, legumes, and whole grains. And also, if something is claiming to be high in fiber, but the ingredients list is full of synthetic fibers or additives like polydextrose or inulin, just know that it's a shortcut, and while it might tick the fiber box on paper, it doesn't have the same benefits as real plant-based fiber. Which brings me neatly to the ingredients list. This is the most important part of the label and the bit that most people skip. But it tells you so much more than the calorie count ever will. Here's a good rule of thumb that I teach my clients. The shorter and simpler the ingredients list, the better. If it reads like a recipe that you could make at home with whole foods that you recognize, that's a good sign. If it reads like a chemistry experiment, that's your clue that the food could well be ultra processed, no matter how many green traffic lights it has. So watch out for artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and sulfame K. Also look out for gums and thickeners like carrageenan and xanthan gum, and emulsifiers which can upset the balance of your gut microbiome. Flavor enhancers and preservatives with numbers and codes, and a long list of unpronounceable ingredients usually means that your body is going to have to work harder to process it. And you might end up with bloating, fatigue, cravings, or inflammation as a result. Now, let's talk about sugar. Not just the number of grams, but where the sugar is coming from and how much it adds up to. Check the ingredients list. Is sugar or any of its sneaky aliases like glucose, fructose, maltodextrin, syrup, or juice concentrate, are any of those in the first few ingredients? If so, it makes up a big portion of the product, even if the traffic light system gives it the green light. Also, look at the added sugar section on the nutrition panel. This tells you how much of the sugar is naturally occurring, like from fruit or dairy, versus how much has been added in the processing. We want to reduce added sugars, not obsess over every naturally occurring gram. And another tip is compare the sugar to the fiber and the protein content. If a food has 12 grams of sugar and only 1 gram of protein and no grams of fiber, that is going to spike your blood sugars, leave you craving more, and offer little in the way of nourishment. Finally, a quick note on portion size. This one is sneaky. Many labels will show nutritional values per serving, but the serving might be unrealistically small, like 40 grams of cereal when most people are going to have 70, or half a ready meal when you'd naturally eat the whole thing. Always check what the listed portion size actually is and be honest with yourself about how much you'd actually eat in one go. All of this might sound like a lot, but once you start doing it, it becomes second nature and you start to feel the difference in how you feel after meals that are protein and fiber rich versus the ones that are processed and low in nutrients. And more importantly, you'll stop being fooled by the low fat, low calorie, healthy front of pack claims, because you'll know exactly what to look for to support your body, your metabolism, and your goals. Now that we've covered what to actually look for on food labels, I want to zoom out a bit and talk about something that's deeply connected to this, and that's the calorie theory of weight control. Because whether we realize it or not, most of us has grown up with the belief that weight loss is all about eating fewer calories and burning eating more, right? That if we're not losing weight, we must be eating too much or not moving enough. It's the classic calories in versus calories out model, simple maths. Except your body isn't a calculator. It's a complex, adaptive hormonal system. And that model, it might work short term for some people, but for most women over 40, especially those who've been dieting on and off for years, it fails miserably. So let's talk about why. First, when you chronically eat fewer calories, especially if you're eating below what your body needs to function optimally, your body doesn't just shrug and keep burning fat. It actually slows your metabolism down to conserve energy. It turns down the thermostat, so to speak. So if you're eating 1,200 calories and not losing weight, it's not because you need to go even lower. It's often because your body has adapted. It's trying to protect you. It doesn't know that you're dieting. It thinks you're in a famine. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Your body prioritizes survival over weight loss. So if your stress is high, if your sleep is poor, if you're constantly under eating, your body is going to hold onto fat, not burn it, especially around your middle. That's why I get so fired up when I see 45-year-old women trying to eat like they did at 25, skipping meals, avoiding carbs and cutting fat, and then wondering why nothing's working even though they're doing everything right. It's because the calorie theory is only looking at the surface. It's not looking at your hormones. It's not looking at your thyroid function, your muscle mass, your stress levels, or how your metabolism has adapted to years of dieting. So let's shift the focus. Instead of how little can I eat, ask how can I nourish myself so that my body feels safe and supported to release fat? Am I eating enough protein to support my lean muscle and metabolic health? Is my blood sugar balanced, or am I on a roller coaster of spikes and crashes? Do I feel energized and clear-headed or tired and wired all the time? Because real fat loss isn't about pushing harder. It's about creating the right internal environment for your body to let go of excess fat safely, sustainably, and without rebound. And this is especially important as we head into perimenopause and beyond, when hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and cortisol become even more influential. The old strategies, eat less, move more, track everything, they not only stop working, but they can backfire. I've worked with so many women who have come to me eating 1,200 or 1,400 calories a day, absolutely shattered, not sleeping well, struggling with bloating and stubborn weight, and blaming themselves for a lack of willpower, when really their bodies are just trying to keep them safe. And here's the magic that happens when we shift away from restriction and towards nourishment. When we start to fuel our bodies with enough food, especially protein, healthy fats, and real nutrient-dense meals, their metabolism starts to pick up again. They sleep better, their energy returns, their cravings calm down, and then the weight starts to come off. Not through willpower, but because their body is no longer clinging on for dear life. So if you've been stuck in that cycle, tracking calories, cutting portions, eating diet foods with all the green lights, but still not seeing results, it's not that your body's broken, it's that you've been given the wrong framework. Calories do matter to some extent, of course. I'm not saying that they're completely irrelevant, but they're only one piece of the puzzle. And when we put too much focus there, we miss what actually drives sustainable fat loss: hormone balance, muscle maintenance, blood sugar stability, stress resilience, and metabolic health. let's quickly talk about two nutrients that have been absolutely demonized by diet culture: fat and salt. These two get slapped with red traffic lights on food labels all the time. And we've been told again and again that we need to avoid them if we want to lose weight, be healthy, and take care of our hearts. But just like with calories, the truth is far more nuanced and honestly, more empowering once you understand it. So let's start with fat. For years, we were told that fat makes you fat, that eating low-fat foods was the healthiest choice. And I still remember the low-fat yogurt craze and the endless marketing around lighter versions of everything, from cheese to salad dressings to ready meals. But the truth is, your body needs fat. It's not optional. Fat is essential for hormone production, especially estrogen and progesterone, which start to fluctuate and decline as we move through perimenopause and beyond. If your body doesn't get enough healthy fat, it struggles to make those hormones. That's one reason why low-fat diets can actually worsen PMS, anxiety, hot flushes, and low mood. Fat is also needed to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. So even if you're eating veggies, if you're not getting any fat with them, you might not be absorbing the full benefit. And this is important. Fat helps to keep you full. It slows the release of food from your stomach and stabilizes your blood sugar. It helps you to feel satisfied. That is one reason why these low-fat diet foods so often leave you feeling hungry again soon after eating. Now, of course, the type of fat matters. We want to include healthy fats, things like oily fish like salmon or sardines, avocados, extra virgin olive oil, nuts and seeds, coconut products, full fat yogurts from quality sources. These fats support your brain, your hormones, your skin, your immune system, all the things that tend to feel a bit off kilter when we run down or we're dealing with weight changes. Compare that to fats in ultra processed foods like refined vegetable oils, hydrogenated oils, or trans fats, and it's a different story. Those are inflammatory and they can impact heart health and metabolism negatively. But they're not the fats that we're talking about increasing. So when you see a red traffic light next to fat on the food label, look deeper. Is it coming from whole, nourishing ingredients that your body recognizes, or is it coming from a factory formulation? Now let's move on and talk about the next misunderstood nutrient, salt. Salt has been demonized for decades, mostly because of concerns around blood pressure. And again, whilst it's important to be mindful, especially for people with salt-sensitive hypertension, the advice to cut salt across the board for most people is unnecessary. In fact, it can be harmful because salt plays a critical role in so many bodily functions. It helps to regulate fluid balance, nerve function, and muscle contraction. It's also essential for adrenal health, and that's a big one for women dealing with fatigue, burnout, or long-term stress. When you're under stress, whether it's emotional or physical, or even hidden stress from gut issues or blood sugar instability, your adrenals work harder. They produce more cortisol, and that increased output affects how your body holds on to sodium. So if you're eating a very low salt diet during this time, you can end up feeling dizzy, fatigued, weak, or craving salty foods like crazy. And here's something that I see a lot. Women cutting out salt because they think it's bad, but they are surviving on low-calorie processed foods that are high in sweeteners, low in nutrients, and leave them more depleted than ever. Meanwhile, what their body actually needs is a mineral-rich whole food diet with a bit of natural sea salt added to their meals. So, how do you know if you're getting too much or too little? Well, if your diet is full of ready meals, packaged snacks, and fast food, you might be getting too much processed sodium. But if you mostly eat real ingredients and you're active or sweating regularly, you might actually need to add salt. And not all salt is created equal. Table salt is bleached and stripped of minerals. A better choice is sea salt or Himalayan salt. They contain trace minerals like magnesium and potassium, which will help your body function properly. Here's the takeaway: fat and salt are not the villains that we've been led to believe they are. When they come from the right sources and are part of a balanced whole food diet, they can actually support fat loss, hormone balance, energy, and satiety. So next time you see a red traffic light on a label and you feel that old guilt creeping in, pause and ask yourself, is this food actually nourishing me? Is it helping me to feel satisfied, stable, and energized? And if the answer is yes, it might just be time to ignore that red light altogether. So let's round this out by talking about some of the most misleading words you'll see on food packaging: low fat, low sugar, diet, light, slim, skinny, and even healthy options. These terms are everywhere and they're marketed as if they are automatically better for you, as if choosing the lighter version or something means that you're doing the right thing. But in reality, these labels often mean the opposite of what you think. Let's take low fat, where manufacturers take the fat out of a food, especially something like yogurt, cheese, or snack bars. They have to add something back in order to make it taste good. And that something is usually sugar, starches, artificial thickeners, or gums. In other words, it's more processed, less satisfying, and often worse for your blood sugar and your hormones. And the same goes for low sugar. It sounds great, especially if you're trying to cut back. But again, the sugar usually gets replaced with artificial sweeteners or sugar alcohols. These can have their own side effects: bloating, cravings, headaches, or even messing with your appetite signals. And here's where it gets even trickier. These low or diet foods can confuse your body because your taste buds are registering the sweet, but your body isn't getting the calories or nourishment it expects. And that disconnect can increase hunger later or lead to more snacking, especially if your blood sugar is unstable or your meals aren't balanced to begin with. So things like diet fizzy drinks, diet ready meals, diet yogurts, all of them promise to help you lose weight, but they're usually low in calories and high in additives. They don't support your muscle maintenance. They don't help your metabolism to work better. In fact, long term, they often keep you stuck in a place of restriction, rebound, and guilt. And what's worse, these foods look like they're healthy. They're wrapped in marketing messages about being good or watching your weight, which reinforces that idea that eating for nourishment is indulgent and that punishment is virtuous. But here's what I really want to emphasize. Just because a food is labeled as low fat or low calorie does not mean that it's good for you. And just because something is higher in fat or calories doesn't mean that it's bad. It's about quality, balance, and satisfaction. Here's an example from a client. She used to choose these little 100-calorie snack packs of biscuits because they were convenient and they felt safe. But they actually left her hungry, craving more, and then beating herself up when she ate 4 packs of them in one go. Once we switched that out for a small handful of almonds and some berries, something with fat, fiber, and real food ingredients, she felt full, calm, and she didn't need to go back for more. And it's not just about hunger. Ultra processed diet foods can interfere with your gut health, your sleep, your mood, your skin, because your body doesn't just need fuel. It needs information. And that information comes from real nutrient-rich foods, not chemical substitutes. So next time you see the words low fat, light, guilt-free, or skinny, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what is actually in this? Is it going to satisfy me? Is it full of things that my body recognizes and knows how to use? Because your body doesn't need diet food. It needs real food. Food that nourishes, satisfies, and helps you feel grounded, energized, and strong. And when you start fueling your body this way, without fear, without restriction, without diet rules, things start to shift. Your metabolism starts to work better. You stop craving all the time, and you build a way of eating that you can actually stick to, not because you're being good, but because you feel good. And that's what sustainable fat loss is really about. Okay, we've covered a lot today, and hopefully you're walking away with a totally new perspective on food labels, calorie counting, and all those light and diet products that have been pushed on us for years. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this: you don't need to eat less, you need to eat better, more nourishing, more supportive, more real foods that actually fuel your body and help you to feel safe and ready to let go of excess fats. Ignore the red lights, flip the pack over, look for real ingredients, good quality protein, fiber, and healthy fats. These are the things that actually support your metabolism, hormones, and long-term well-being, not the ones that make a product look healthy on the front, but leave you hungry and stuck. And if you're fed up with that stuck feeling, the cravings, the bloating, the low energy, the I'm doing everything right, but nothing's working spiral, I've got something to help you get started in the right direction. It's my free Fat Loss Fundamentals guide, and inside I walk you through the exact approach I use with clients to help them to rebuild their metabolism, balance their hormones, and start losing weight without calorie tracking, restriction, or fad diets. You can download it using the link in the show notes. It's completely free and packed with practical tips you can start using today. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. If this episode shifted something for you, or if it helps you to see food labels and weight loss in a new way, please share it with a friend and make sure you hit like and subscribe. You can do this. You can eat in a way that supports fat loss without giving up your sanity or living on lettuce and diet snacks. You just need the right lens and a little bit of unlearning.